Okay, we're ready. Thank you so much for attending today, everybody. My name is Deborah Smith, and on behalf of Gets Concerned Stratford and the concerned community, people of Stratford, I'm here to introduce the speakers today. I think we all know why we're here, and I want to thank everybody for coming and for attending, and we're hoping to encourage everybody to stick around. Today's a very important meeting here at Council. Our first speaker is Melissa Vernspeeten, and she's going to talk to you about the importance of today's meeting and what we're facing today. Thank you.
Wow. Good afternoon, and thank you so much to everyone for joining us today. I've spoken to so many local residents over the last 2 weeks. Their emotions have ranged from anger to frustration to fear and bewilderment. How could the council that we've elected to look out for our best interests feel that pushing this proposal through by way of an MZO during a global pandemic was fair to the constituents that they're sworn to represent? I'm not going to use my time today to speak to you about the many health-related concerns pertaining to water and air quality contamination that so many of us have expressed, although all of those are of grave concern. I know that everyone here and on council has families, children, grandchildren that will consume the water and air for generations to come, and I do very much think that further information is needed. However, because of the rush with which this has been pushed through and the utter lack of transparency to the public, I'm going to speak on the process and how it's been conducted. First and foremost, pertaining to the MZOs, the document as issued contains a great number of details extremely specific to Chenier Glass. My first question to council had been who submitted the application and who was involved in advising how that application was to be filled out when it went to the provincial government. It has now been brought to our attention that council did in fact have a hand in that MZO application and that they had intended for the entire annexed land to be covered by that MZO, not just the Chenier site. I've been in contact with Erin O'Toole, the Conservative Party leader of Canada. Mr. O'Toole has been speaking frequently as of late about how Canada needs to take a harder stance on its dealings with China. We have Canadian citizens being wrongfully detained in conditions that violate their human rights, and Stratford has willingly made business dealings with a privately held company that has ties to the Communist Party of China. This is so much larger than a Stratford issue. It's a Canada issue and a global issue, and calls are being made as to why this particular deal has been allowed to happen the way that it has, specifically by way of a minister's zoning order. Someone will need to answer for that. As far as the cost-sharing agreement that's been released 1 week ago when this was proposed to Guelph Aramosa, there was no cost sharing. Chenier was to pay for the entire cost of the development. Why are our taxpayers being asked to contribute nearly $6 million? And why was there only 1 week between the release of the cost-sharing documents and the deadline for public comments to be submitted? Our country, our province, and our city are on the brink of a second wave of COVID-19. Lockdowns are happening all around us and are sure to be upon our very doorstep within a short time. If this city is insistent on spending $6 million on economic issues, why not put that $6 million into a reserve to aid the local businesses that are already struggling or underwater because of this pandemic? Instead of committing this money to a multinational company, why not instead commit that money to reserves to save the businesses of our neighbors, our families, and our friends? Many of them supporting the local economy for decades, and these inevitable hard times to come could conceivably put them completely out of business. By allowing $6 million to be spent on infrastructure for this factory, Mayor Matheson and City Council is prioritizing that over the constituent business owners of this city, people that they're going to be forced to see every single day. How can they in good conscience think that that's a good decision? If council has done a thorough job of research and we're all completely safe and in good hands, then make that information available to the public and let this project stand on its merits rather than as what appears from everyone who's looking at it from the outside as a very hush and rush job to pull one over on this community. This is a very complex decision that demands public participation as it affects all of our futures. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, Melissa. Our next guest and speaker is Mike Sullivan.
First, thanks to all of you for coming out on such incredibly short notice. I mean, we sent an email at 7:30 last night, and we've got 80 people here already, and it's quite amazing. Thank you also for being socially distant. I know it's hard. It's also cold, so you can't huddle with people and keep warm, but that's because of COVID. And thank you so much for doing this. If the mayor and council are up there listening, one of the reasons we're here today is because they are meeting today about this project at 1 o'clock, I think, or maybe 3 o'clock, I don't know, but very soon. And they need to know that the town of Stratford, the town they supposedly represent, is not happy with what this is doing. You folks are not happy, I think, with the fact that this is hugely undemocratic. The city of Stratford admits that they asked for the MZO. I can't find any record of any council minute that says we want an MZO, because then people in Stratford would have known. Nobody here knew that till Friday, that the city of Stratford wanted to not have a democratic system. It's cowardly. And rather than allowing the public to have their say, the council asked the province to step in and eliminate public process. Maybe south of the border, democracy is under attack, but I thought here in Canada we were safe. Thank you. At the town Zoom meeting, I asked a question, and I'll ask it again publicly. Has anyone on council received any gratuity or favor or emolument from the proponent? I just asked the question. I'm not expecting an answer. I'm concerned as well about this company's attempts to characterize itself as a Hong Kong company. They're a mainland China company. They have a little office in Hong Kong, and they've registered themselves on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange as a non-Hong Kong company in the Cayman Islands. And they were in the Paradise Papers, and so we've found that the Cayman Islands directors are actually all companies, all but one, are companies registered in the British Virgin Islands. So good luck trying to figure out who really owns this company. Why are they hiding? And what have they got to hide? I'm also concerned about the fact that they want to build a dormitory on site. Does everybody know that? This morning I spoke with the managing director of a glass plant in in Wisconsin. And he went, dormitory? They don't have dormitories. There's no need for this. Xinyi would have you believe this is for an emergency response center, that they will house up to 100 people. That's not an emergency response. Even Bruce Nuclear doesn't have anybody on site in a bed for an emergency response. This is all about housing temporary Chinese workers from China so that they are in essentially a labor camp. And we here in Canada don't agree with those kinds of things. The suggestion that the jobs, as was given to Guelph, the jobs are going to be so technical and so specialized that only the workers from China will be able to do them. But probably 70% of the jobs are warehousing, moving his stuff, shipping and receiving, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not sure how those are so technical that only people from China can do them. I think they can be performed by Canadian workers, and to suggest they can't beggars belief. Our MP has also raised concerns about labor standards and unionization. Will Xinyi abide by Ontario labor laws? We don't know. They have a checkered labor history. They had a strike, believe it or not, a strike in China. Has anybody ever heard of one of those? Apparently it happens. And at one of their factories, and the police were called by Xinyi to quash it. That's who we're dealing with. The reporter who reported on the story suggested it was their very close ties with the Chinese Communist Party that was the reason they were able to get the police to quash their strike. I'm also concerned, as you all are, about the environmental impact on this community. The City of Stratford still doesn't have the air quality report. If anybody's been on their website looking for it, it says, oh, I already did that for Guelph. It's the same one, and you can't find it. So we have no idea just how much particulate matter will be put into your air, just how much greenhouse gases are going to be emitted. After Stratford called this a climate emergency, now we're going to have an enormous quantity of greenhouse gases. Other plants in the US burn $500,000 worth of natural gas every month. That's an awful lot of natural gas to burn, and that then becomes carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and other matters. And they also are going to take an awful lot of water. Now the city says, oh, it's okay because we have lots of water. Well, people here seem to remember that there were times that water was rationed, that there were times when water was not as plentiful as they seem to think it is. I don't know what the truth is, but it deserves a whole lot more study. Anyway, thanks for listening to me. Thanks for being here. That's the most important thing, because those folks up there got to know that they can't just run roughshod over the people of Stratford. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Our next speaker is Jamie Gibb. Thank you, Jamie.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jamie Gibb, and I live and work on a farm that abuts the proposed Zini industrial site. It will be on the eastern border of my farm, and so they wanted me to speak briefly this morning. And the idea was that I would give my presentation that I presented to council last Monday, but essentially that is online. Anyone can go and hear what I said in that presentation. What I thought I would do is give you a different presentation that I was to make on the virtual floor of the Ontario Federation of Agriculture's annual general meeting this morning. Perth County put in a resolution that all county federations across Ontario send a letter into the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing addressing their concerns with the rampant use of MZOs as a tool to circumvent Ontario's Planning Act. Unfortunately, guest speaker Brent Butt delivered a 45-minute comedy routine, and the program had to be shortened, so I wasn't able to give my presentation. So I thought what I would do is I give it to you here today. My name is Jamie Gibb, and I'm a farmer and Federation member from Perth County. It is a bit of an adventure and an honor to be here addressing you, this 80 to 100 people here today. On July 8th, this past summer, a minister's zoning order was applied to 175 acres of farmland abutting the east side of my farm. The zoning was changed to industrial to accommodate a large international glass manufacturer. When you experience firsthand the impact of an MZO, the first reaction is to resist. However, the reality of responding to an MZO is eye-opening. The MZO is a heavy-handed tool that gives one person in the province, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the power to change the zoning on any piece of land anywhere in Ontario at any time without notice, without consultation, and without any right of appeal. A tool with this much power was intended to be used and should be expected to be used sparingly, rarely, and judiciously. It is unfortunate that MZO is now regularly being used to suspend property owners and residents' rights to fully participate in community planning, rights that are conferred by Ontario's Planning Act. It's as if a citizen's voice is something to be cleared out of the way, like red tape standing in the way of development. It is an ideal tool for anyone who believes that democracy is something that exists one day every 4 years. And that in the intervening years, making decisions behind closed doors and in camera, insulated from the public eye, is a hallmark of efficiency and effectiveness. Like many farmers in Ontario, I've been blessed and have had the opportunity to see my parents and grandparents work and care for the land that I now tend to. And they, in turn, also watched my earlier ancestors create farms and rural communities from the land. Adaptation and survival are a never-ending thread for farm families. In my situation, if the perceived agrarian utopia I'm currently surrounded in transitions into an industrial landscape, I will find my way forward, some way, somehow, to a new reality. But my message to share with the farmers of Ontario, the residents of Ontario, and the people of Stratford is that the possibility of an MZO landing in your community isn't only theoretical, it can and does happen. I'm sure the people that you elected to serve as your representatives, your councillors, are very well-intentioned people who put their names forward to represent you every minute of every day. I'm sure it wasn't their intention to be hamstringed by provincial government tool called an MZO. How many meetings have they sat in camera? How many countless hours have they sat in caucus discussing this very issue? How many instructions have they received from solicitors? Don't breathe a word of what we've discussed here once you leave this room. I do feel for them in a way. I try to put myself in their shoes. It's not easy. Please speak to them. They still have votes ahead of them. Let them know your concerns. Visit the Get Concerned Stratford website, sign the petition. Look forward to our upcoming virtual meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jamie, especially for explaining the MZO and the complexities of enforcing an MZO, the Municipal Planning Act, and how difficult it is actually to do that, and how much backdoor politics it takes to do something like that. Our next speaker is an environmentalist and a Stratfordian, and you probably all know her, Lorena McKenna.
Well, thank you very, very much, everyone, for coming out today, especially on a winter's day and in the midst of a pandemic. I know we wouldn't be here if the stakes weren't high. I'd also like to acknowledge all of those in Get Concerned Stratford and many others who worked so diligently over the weekend to pull this rally together. You and they are an incredible team. I should also set out for the record, even though my profession has a public dimension to it, when it comes to this community, I consider myself just one more citizen with a voice no greater or less than yours. I don't want to speak long today, but I do want to share a few thoughts on what matters most to me in this recent issue. Because there's so many complex and technical strands to this glass factory project, many of us have gravitate to strands which we relate to more than others. And I was so impressed to hear such eloquent citizens last Monday evening as they presented their concerns to Council. Concerns which include environmental and land use, to name but a few. For me personally, the overarching strand which has disturbed me the most has been the lack of democratic process, which should be rich with transparency and citizen involvement, and if done well, should deliver a community with a resultant decision that even if they don't like it in the end, at least they can respect it. In the immediate sense, it matters not where this company comes from. The question that has to be asked, is it suitable for Stratford? And does it meet the goals and highest standards this community has set for itself, with respect to climate and environmental principles, which in turn inform our city's plan? And does this initiative embody the strongest workplace and human rights framework? This is what we want. In the matter that is before us, there are some serious and important questions to ask. Why did the City of Stratford believe this enterprise was suitable for this community when so many others turned it down? Why did they turn it down? Who initiated this project and when? And what was the ultimate goal? To provide jobs, or was it tax money or funding for future infrastructure or something else? Maybe there is a perfectly plausible and noble explanation in all of this. We just need to hear it. As we learn more about such concerning administrative instruments, such as MZOs, what role did this play in the advancement of this project? And was it abusively used to advance it under the citizens' radar? In the immediate sense, I believe the citizens of Stratford deserve to see a moratorium on this project until a full narrative and accounting of how it got this far so fast with so little citizen input and where it might go from here, and if it can meet community and Canadian standards. We don't deserve or want to feel there are things going on under the cover of darkness or in the time of a pandemic when everyone is busy surviving. We just want to feel our elected officials are working for us. If we're to have hope in the future, that hope needs many things to flourish. It needs courage, it needs action, and it needs trust. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lorena. So that concludes our speeches today, and I want to thank everybody for showing up. The fight hasn't ended. We are going to have to keep continuing, I'm sure. We have to reveal that this has not been a democratic process. We have to continue to lobby council. The meeting is today. We will be having an open public session on December the 8th, so please visit our Facebook page, Get Concerned Stratford. Please get the word out. Today, we are only allowed 100 people for social distancing. I'd like to thank you so much for wearing your masks, social distancing, bringing the signage, getting the word out to your friends. I know we had to close it at 100, so for those of you who know friends who couldn't come, that's the reason why. We're very responsible protesters, so give yourself a hand. There will be more, I'm sure. So thank you so much. Get the word out and continue to get people to sign up for our public session on December the 8th. Thank you once again.